wow, your favorite Captain America film is Captain America: The First Avenger, and one of the reasons that Joe Johnston was chosen to do that film was because he did The Rocketeer. And those two films, from their aesthetic, from their plot points, they're so similar. I venture to say that The Rocketeer was in a unintended way kind of Joe Johnston's addition to do Captain America. And if you give me 1 second, I'm just going to list just a few of the similarities between these films. Both star a aw shucks, down on his luck good old boy. Their signature weapon is received from an eccentric Howard Hughes-inspired millionaire. In The Rocketeer's case, Howard Hughes himself. Both feature a romantic misunderstanding. Both feature a villain leading a double life and double-crossing those he works with. Both feature an older, witty mentor character who believes in the heart of the hero. Both feature a climax on an airship where the hero falls off and flies back into the airship. Both villains acquire what they desire and are killed by it. Both films end with children play acting in the streets as a hero. Both begin with a hero failing to qualify for their passion. Both feature unfortunate early test subjects for the hero's main source of power. And both, of course, are World War II comic book films. Now, some of these are general, obviously, but some of them are goddamn specific, especially accounting for the ending, which, in my opinion, if you think that the third act of The Rocketeer is a weaker part, Kyle, I contend that Captain America, I don't think you'll disagree with me on this, but the Captain America First Avenger, I think its biggest problems are also in the third act, especially anything involving an airship.
Yeah, it should have ended a little better in and of itself. Listen, we know I enjoy the First Avenger film, and to your point, as I'm watching this, I do see similarities in some of the Rocketeer's flight with one of these. I'm going to call it a car chase, for lack of a better way to really describe it, and his team's effort to I don't know if you want to call it zip line or whatever onto the train during the first film, where they, in the sequence where they lose Bucky. And he should have stayed at the bottom of whatever ravine he was in, but we won't touch on that right now. No, I definitely saw aesthetic similarities. And listen, the lead was, I wanted to like The Rocketeer, and I liked the aesthetic. So if Joe Johnston did everything and was just a little bit less ridiculous this time finishing the movie, no wonder I liked it, folks. Just throw it out there. If nothing else, Kyle's consistent, bitches.
Oh, I find it really funny that the point where you start disliking The Rocketeer is during the animated montage here. The funny part is the point where Captain America First Avenger starts losing me is that montage before Bucky dies. You know exactly the one I'm talking about. That's the turning point of the film. That's when it starts going downhill for me.
You know what, though? Here's what we do. We retcon the Rocketeer to have several hot chicks doing kick lines, and maybe we can fix The Rocketeer.
I didn't mind that montage. That montage early in the film I thought was actually spot on perfect. I even like the goddamn song, and it gets stuck in your head.
Really
does. Captain America, he was the all shucks guy, but even then he still had that serious moment where, he's, look, I can do this all day, so it's a little bit more mature. So if I'm saying, you call him Joe Johnston, if Joe's the director, I'm saying that Rocketeer was his preteen phase, and Captain America, he's becoming a man.
That's a good point. I kind of view them as unofficial companion films. I will say this, and I think it touches on the point you just made, TJ. As a film, my preference actually does go to The Rocketeer, but the one thing that Captain America definitely has going for it above and beyond the Rocketeer is specifically the main lead. He is much more of a three-dimensional character. There's a lot more to Captain America, and with good reason too, because it was a setup for continuing storylines. You had to Captain America is in many ways the heart of the Avengers, the spark and level of the morality behind the superhero team. So if you didn't set that correctly, you lost so much potential in what came on. And of course, need I say more? They nailed it. Rocketeer himself is a little bit more two-dimensional, and I have a couple of issues with the original film. I absolutely despise the romantic misunderstanding plot in any film. A few of them do it right, yeah, but this one was a little bit more cliche in my book. But there's so much goodwill and just joy in the Rocketeer that allows me to just it's so much easier for me to overlook some of the flaws that it has and just go along for the ride. It's a joyous film, I think.
Yeah, and to your point, listen, man, there you can't point to a scene in the Rocketeer that's powerful. You can't do it. But all I got to do was tell you about the scene where wimpy Steve Rogers throws himself on the grenade, not knowing it's fake. That thing still resonates with anybody the literal decade later. That will still resonate a decade after.
Like I said, it's not a deep movie. It's not a deep movie, and it doesn't intend to be a deep movie. Just the experience.
You're the one that tried to tell me that The Rocketeer was the superior film not 2 minutes ago. So I
didn't say it was the superior film. I just said I prefer it.
He said that it's his preference. If I can say, we can't compare the two. We can't. It's not fair. Captain America has an extreme advantage, in my opinion, because it falls in line with all the movies that led before it fall in the Marvel universe. So the Rocketeer doesn't have that matters. You know, I'm looking at your face, Kyle. I mean, that matters. The event. I mean, Captain America was the movie that they did before the first Avengers movie. It led into that film, so everything kind of it was woven. It was woven. So Rocketeer doesn't have the advantage of having, you know, other storylines to feed off of or to feed into.
I hear that, but if it were later in the MCU, I'd be more inclined to buy what you're selling there. The thing of it is, when First Avenger comes out, there's still a chance for the MCU to have the wheels fall off of it. At that point, it still could have ended tragically as like the DC universe does, okay?
No, but that's just, bro, we had, at that point in time when Captain America came out, we had already had
we
had four. I'm thinking Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Thor,
and Iron Man 2.
And Iron Man 2, which I've said on this show that I liked Iron Man 2. So we had 4 movies. Kyle, you say 3 of the 4 are decent at least.
2 of the 4 are decent at least.
Okay, but then you bring in Captain America, which we have all said was a quality film. Yeah. But having those 4 movies to feed story kind of helped it out. Look, if nothing else, call it home court advantage. Rocketeer still had a chance to win, but Captain America has home court advantage.
Let me dial this back because we're getting way too far off into the Marvel territory here. My whole point in comparing the two is by saying that a lot of what works in Captain America comes directly from the Rocketeer and from the decision to cast this particular director, to certain styles and aesthetic choices, to even some specific plot points. A lot of it is derived from this. So I don't think Captain America, the First Avenger, would have turned out the way it did if it wasn't for the Rocketeer.
Maybe not. Hey, I already know how that interview went, and they didn't interview the director himself. They interviewed his wife and said, "Listen, we watched The Rocketeer. He appears to have problems finishing. Does he want you?" She said no. He got the part, and then we got First Avenger as the success that it was. Too far? My bad.
I don't know. I think you just climaxed with that explanation, but I don't know.
Hey, ow!